Welcome to the podcast, Young in Love.
Hey, my people, how on that day? How are you guys doing? Welcome to another episode of the Young in Love podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. On the last episode, we talked about what we talked about. So if you haven't listened to that episode, please do so. And news updates. We have a YouTube channel now, Young in Love Media. So go to YouTube, search for Young in Love Media, like our videos, and subscribe. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about sex and prayer, guiltless fornication, and I've brought in an amazing guest on today's episode. The last time I saw you was 2018. Abi?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to give you guys the background gist of this person, but just know that I'm excited that he's on this episode today, and he's the inspiration behind this episode. So there's no better person to be on today's episode than him. So once we're just discussing, and he's now a married man, so nobody should ask me for his handle or stuff like that. He's happily married, so stay off. But I know that after his wedding and we were discussing, he was saying something about, just how you're just at liberty to punch, and then in the morning you wake up and just pray to God. No burden in your chest, not
guilt-free knacking.
Guilt-free knacking, and I'm like, that's a good topic. So I've brought here today a special somebody. I'll let him introduce himself. Right.
My name is Obinna.
So I should call you Obinna or Obi.
Obi.
No, I'll call you Obinna.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
I'm an engineer by trade, and yeah, that's it.
Okay, so I mean, obviously
and
you're married.
Yeah.
So there's no need to drop your handle. Nobody's trying to reach out to you for anything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's delve right into the topic for today. Let's start by defining concepts, right? What does sex mean to you? What does fornication mean to you? And what does prayer mean to you? So let's start from the holy one, prayer. Yes.
Well, prayer, according to a book called Steps to Christ, is the opening of the heart to God and talking to God as you would to a friend. So yes, you sharing what's on your heart, and whether it's your burdens or your desires or your requests or whatever it is that is, or your thanks, and being able to communicate with God. I believe that God talks to us through His Word, through the Bible. As you read the Bible, you see what God is telling you, and then that inspires you to now open and talk to Him about what's actually going on in your life. So
prayer is like a two-way thing. It's not just you talking to God.
Yeah.
It's God talking to you through His Word, the Bible.
Right.
Okay, nice. And then, what does sex mean to you?
Yeah, sex.
See, you're smiling, guys. You should see his face. I don't know why he's smiling, but go ahead. What does sex mean to you?
Is intimacy. Ideally, intimacy between two people is, like the word "know" comes to mind. Is the one way you can know someone. That
Intimacy is a very broad term.
Okay, it's physical intimacy. Yeah, physical intimacy in the deepest sense. To the point where we use the word "know." You know someone, you have sex with them. You're super intimate. That's what sex is.
So, is it that any kind of physical intimacy qualifies as sex? For instance,
sex is to do with penetration.
Okay.
Obviously the man, the woman exchanging like the seed and the sperm and the egg.
Exchanging. I don't think women exchange because we don't give guys any egg. But there's that contact.
There's that contact.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, what does fornication mean to you?
Fornication is when you're having that kind of level of physical intimacy, but there's not really any commitment or marriage commitment. So when I say real commitment in terms of marriage, that's not there. So you don't have that. It's just, it could be some cases, I guess, when two people are dating, or if it's like a one night stand or whatever. But Yeah, so that's what fornication
That's fornication.
is. Yeah.
Okay, so now that you've said marriage, different things are coming to my mind. These days we have civil unions, we have different types of relationships that are not just dating, but they are not marriage either. They're just like and those unions are recognized. Yeah. So people who have sex in relationships like that, are they fornicating or or what is it?
Yeah, if they're in those type of unions that are not marriage between a man and a woman before God, because actually marriage is when you have that agreement before in a church, ideally before God, before witnesses. That's what marriage is. Then obviously there's the civil aspect. So in this country, you get married, say in a church, but you also have to have the civil thing. But the civil thing is to back the marriage in church. It's not the other way around. So you can be civilly married, or if it's not before God, you just, it doesn't mean anything. Before heaven anyway. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That's tough, because so that means I don't plan to marry, because I don't know if I want to go to the church. I just feel if the parents, give their consent and blessing, because there's that one. Personally, I feel that is what marriage is where the parents, consent.
Okay, with the traditional thing, because actually I never wanted to actually have a church wedding. I was happy to do the traditional wedding.
Exactly.
Because in the traditional wedding, you still have a religious aspect. So when you include the religious aspect and parents, everybody's, then that's when it's marriage. Yeah.
Okay. So you're a very religious person.
I try.
Is that religious or spiritual now? Which one? Or both?
I think both. True religion. I hope I'm a truly religious person. Obviously, I'm a human being. I have my faults like everybody else. But
so you do not claim to be a saint?
No, I'm not a saint like that.
Okay.
But I'm a saint in the sense that I've asked Jesus for mercy, and he, when you're forgiven in the Bible, according to the Bible, you are a saint. That's what the Bible teaches. Doesn't mean that you're better than anybody else. It just means you'll be received and accepted of God. Okay.
So, from the two definitions that you gave, I noticed something when you were defining prayer, when you were defining fornication. There was some religious undertone to your definitions, right? God was included in both definitions, but I noticed that when you were defining sex, God was completely out of your definition. I was paying attention. So let me ask you now.
Yeah.
Have you at any point in your life felt that sex was incompatible with prayer?
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Why?
Because in church, they're always hitting it into your head that you should basically don't have sex.
Yes.
It's evil, it's sin. When actually, like you said, it's not. It's actually...
Oh, I haven't said yet.
Well, no, you haven't said that. No, but you alluded to the fact that actually it is it is a gift that God has given to us.
Oh, so sex now is a gift.
Yeah. So I think
it's a gift. So hold on. Are you just realizing that sex is a gift from God? Because I asked you, have you at any point in your life felt that sex was incompatible with prayer? And you said yes. So at that point, you didn't have that idea.
Yeah, well, when you're single, it's not a gift because you're not married, so it's not for you.
Okay, so now sex is only a gift from God when you are married.
Yeah.
It's not a gift from God when you're single.
It is, but you can only tap into it. You need to pick one side. What is it? Is it a gift or is it not a gift? Sex is like a car that you received at your 15th birthday or 16th birthday, but until you have a license, you can't drive that car. So it's not that God doesn't give you the gift. The gift is there until you get your driving license. Then you can drive that car. So when you get married,
well, at least you have the license. Car, right? Even though you can't drive it, you have it.
Yeah. So it's not that it's not. But the thing is, you'll still be angry that this car. Why can't I drive it now? Why can't? Like, no, you need to get your license. Then you can drive the car. So it's like that with sex. It's not that it's not a gift, but when you don't have the license, it's annoying because it's just like, why do I have this car but I can't drive it? And everybody else, all my other friends, they're driving their car.
without their license.
Okay, so this is the first time ever I'm hearing someone liking sex to a 16th birthday gift. That's an interesting one. So now that you have said it's like this gift and you don't have a license until a certain time, I want to dissect fornication.
Okay.
Because in your definition again, you said stuff that is outside of marriage, right? And then for sex, you use the word penetration. So now my question about fornication is, there are unmarried people who have this same religious sentiment, right, about fornication, that it's a sexual immorality. Unmarried people should not be engaging in sex or sexual activities until they are married. So, but those people who have that kind of religious sentiment, a good number of them think that it's okay to do certain things like kiss, cuddle, finger themselves, those other things that will not include penetration. Because now to these people, penetration is the main thing. Once you've penetrated, then you've had sex. In fact, something interesting. I had someone once tell me that he met this girl. She's not Christian, but she's from, I think she's Muslim or something. Okay. So she wanted to get the pleasure and everything, but because of where she's from and how it is really important that as a lady you marry as a virgin, in quotes, you understand? Yeah. She told him to penetrate her from behind. So it was anal sex, right? Just so that the vagina is unpenetrated. So now back to the question, when it comes to fornication, do these other things count? Like the kissing, the cuddling, the other orishi play,
Yeah, some of those things are like starting the engine and warming up the engine.
But it's not driving the car.
It's not driving the car, yeah. So stuff. Yeah, when you're talking about when you go to penetration, you're driving the car, whether it's from the back or from the front, whether you're reversing or driving.
Okay, so you're saying anal sex, vaginal sex, everything is sex as far as there's penetration.
Yeah. But then
what about oral sex then?
Yeah, it's still some kind of penetration. So it's still
penetrating
sex.
The mouth.
Yeah. So it's still So you're still having sex. Yeah. But the other stuff I would say is more like you warming up the engine.
Oh, you said the other stuff. List
like
them
kissing and fondling and.
So if unmarried people were to kiss, and by fondling, what exactly are you talking about?
So what my friend would describe as his hand, he would say my hands were missing.
His hands were missing.
My hand went
on his partner's body.
Yeah, when they shouldn't have been basically. So that's fondling.
So if unmarried people would kiss and cuddle and misplace their hands, and fondle each other, it will be okay because there's no penetration. Of course, like you said, it's just warming the engine.
It's warming then why are you warming the engine if you're not trying to drive the car?
Sometimes it's like, okay, if we can't go the full length, let's just do this. So are those things okay? Because if we want to go all the way religious now, if we want to be 100, these things are not.
They're not.
Because you already asked, why are you warming the car if you're not going to drive it?
Yeah.
Because in fact, Shobi Jesus said is the thought that starts counting. In fact, like if you talk about sexual immorality, it starts in the mind.
Yeah.
So if you're already fondling and getting your hands missing, right, and kissing and doing all of these things that put those ideas in your head, or you already have the ideas in your head and you start doing them, are you not already guilty?
Yeah, you are.
So why are we making these excuses then? This is not about me, don't look at me. It's not about me at all. We're just having this conversation.
It's not an excuse, but it's just defining it. That there's some things that are underway, and there are some things that are there. You're at the destination.
So they are not exactly the same.
Yeah.
So since they're not exactly the same, since penetration is what it is, that's driving the car. Since we're just warming, do these acts make the acts more compatible with prayer? Because now we've said that we've established that it's the sex, the penetration that's outside of marriage that is in quotes unholy. I mean, we shouldn't do it.
Right.
And so if unmarried people would do it, it's kind of incompatible because prayer is holy and this on the other hand is not approved. Right? So now we're not going all the way, right? As unmarried persons now, we're not going all the way. We're just, so it makes it more compatible with prayer then, because I can just kiss somebody and then go and pray. After I didn't fornicate.
Yeah, but it's like what you said. Well, two things. Like what you said about you. What you said about it starting from the mind. So if it starts in my mind, then my mind. If I'm physically on 2, then my mind has probably gone to 9 and 10, and then furthermore. Normally, people don't just go to 9 and 10. The first time will be 1.
Yeah.
Then maybe next time, 2 and 3. Then next time, 4 and 5. Or like these, memes about, oh no, just the tip.
Yeah.
It does. Like, okay. If he said, I want to go all the way, he probably said no. But if he says just the tip, then okay, maybe. But actually, it's compromise.
Creeping compromise.
Bit by bit. And the next thing you know, you're somewhere that you didn't imagine to be. You just thought, I've gone in my mind, but that's where I'll stop. Physically, slowly, you end up there.
So, in essence, you're saying the more you engage in these acts that just warm the engine, the less compatible they become with prayer because you keep sinking.
Yeah.
You know. Further. Are you speaking from personal experience or it's just...
Yeah, I'm speaking from personal experience. Yeah, I wish I could say I'm a saint.
Tell us.
Tell us.
Oh God, I'm curious, what do you mean personal experience? So there've been that time where you felt like you couldn't pray afterwards because of certain things that you had done.
Yeah.
Even
like I remember I was in a relationship and we had agreed that okay, we're not starting the engine. Yeah. We're not. The most is maybe we'll hold hands.
Hold hands, like
the environment and feelings. And next thing you know, you're kissing and you're excessively fondling. You're thinking, how did I get here?
But I mean, if you didn't go all the way, then as you said, it's you didn't drive the car, right? You just warmed the engine.
Yeah. But then after you still feel like, oh no, what did I do? Like, so there's that's the kind of the guilt.
The guilt.
Aspect, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think it was something I heard years ago. This preacher. He was basically saying, he was talking about being being equally yoked on this issue. And it's something that he said which is it's wise. It seemed a bit, but he was basically saying, just make sure that you're yoked with someone that that is on your page. So if you want to be on gear 2, make sure that person is happy to go to gear 2, and that's it. If you want to be going to gear 5, gear 10, don't be planning to stay on gear 1 and the other person they're okay to go to gear 5. Eventually, so somebody's going to give in. So make sure that you guys are okay. We are holding hands. Yes, say, oh yeah, I want to hold hands, and I say, okay, cool. Then you guys are agreed. But don't go and mixing up with someone that is happy to be, kissing, fondling, and then you just want to hold hands. It's not going to work because eventually you're going to want to please them and give into their thing. So it's good that you, when you're going into a relationship, talk about those things at the beginning. Yeah. And if the person says, well, actually, I don't mind, having sex or and that's not your thing, then just walk away. Yeah, so
at the end of the day, it's just important to be with someone who's on the same page as you are. If you guys want to fornicate and have sex,
then yes,
by all means.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do stuff like that, then make sure the person is on the same page with you. Okay. So moving on. So has there been a time, right, when sex and prayer did not really feel at opposite ends, like they didn't feel incompatible for you? Because we've talked about the times when you felt they couldn't work together.
Yeah.
So well, has there been that time where you did it and you're like, praise Jesus for this wonderful gift?
When it was before I was married,
Anytime at all. Has there ever been a time when you had when you drove the car, when you had
Yeah.
sex, or when you warmed the engine, whichever,
Yeah.
and you didn't have this guilt afterwards?
Yeah.
When?
I think when I...
Speak, brother.
I think after I lost my virginity, I think one of the times after, and it was in a relationship type of setting, I think because for me it was something that I maybe to some degree prided myself in.
Oh.
That I was like, yeah, I'm holding on,
Until
I'm keeping
when?
the faith until I was married. But unfortunately, we didn't get there. But yeah, so I was in a relationship, and you get desensitized. This is the danger. You can get desensitized, and then after you get desensitized, you might not feel as bad as maybe the first time. That's one thing. But yeah, so I know we're getting to the other part. So that's the one where I'll call it self-deception, where you're basically doing the wrong thing, and it doesn't feel that bad.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, at first it did. Yeah. But that's nothing to be compared to when you open your present on Christmas morning. It's a completely different feeling. Yeah.
This has got me thinking. So, after then, was there a turning back? Was there a come to Jesus moment? I mean, a repentance.
Oh yeah, there's always a you think something happens, you listen to a sermon or whatever, you realize you just think, what the heck am I doing? And then you say, okay, God, have mercy on me, forgive me.
But after that, you still relapse.
Yeah, there were some relapses.
Yeah. Okay, so let's not dwell so much on that. Let's move on to the time when it was legit.
When it was legit, okay.
You know?
Yeah. So yeah. Okay, so I remember a friend of mine, years ago. He's late now, but
are we talking about you now or your friend?
My friend.
Okay.
Yeah. So he got married, and then he was basically telling me about his experience.
Yes.
I think for me, marriage seemed like something that was very far distant in the future, and they were really, yeah. But anyway, he was like, yeah, well, I remember when during the time he was married, he said how he remembers he remembers getting up in the morning, having sex with his wife, and then having devotion.
It
was just like everything flowed into one.
Yeah.
And the concept just blew my mind, because I was like, how? Are you actually telling me that you can have sex and not feel any guilt?
Yeah.
And that was something that just really blew my mind. And that was something that I looked forward to.
Sure.
Yeah, because I'd never heard anyone talk about guilt-free sex, basically. Yeah. So
then you looked forward to it, and then when you eventually
when
married,
I did get married, then I was able to have sex with my wife.
Yeah.
And then have devotion straight after
and
Bible
you're like,
study,
yes,
and it
I
was
did
like,
it.
yes, there's no disconnect, anything.
So what is it like actually being able to just finish in the night with Madame, and then in the morning just pray? Just what is it like in comparison to when you're not married?
If I'm really honest, I think the first time I was like, and she was like, okay, you pray. I was like,
we just finished up.
But then I remembered
that you're married.
That actually, I'm married. I don't need to feel guilty. I don't need to feel bad. So then I was like, oh, okay. There you go.
It's interesting. I feel like I should also look forward to that feeling.
Yeah. And I think, okay, for example, there's a lot of people that view marriage as a as a burden. You're locked in a cage, and you're trapped. And if I'm honest, I think when I was single to a degree, I did view marriage that way.
As a trap.
As a trap, yeah. But I remember my brother had a, bachelor's party. And he, obviously, my brother is a very serious person, so at his bachelor's party, he had all the serious people in his life, men, and they all came together.
When you say serious, what do you
Like
mean?
men that had influence in his life. It wasn't like let's go to a strip bar and fool around and drink. It was more like we played games, we ate food, and we talked, and people poured advice into his life and prayed for him. So one of the guys that was there, his name was Jermaine. One of the guys that was there, he basically said, to summarize when he was speaking about marriage, he was basically saying, if you're not married, you're a fool.
What?
Yeah. And I was like, what? Because I'm feeling sorry for him as a married man. But then he's just looking at me as a single man, and he's feeling sorry for me. And he said, look, if you're not married, you're a fool. You don't know what you're missing out. And I just realized that actually, maybe people that are married, they don't advertise marriage as it is, or maybe because they're not experiencing
bliss.
Bliss for what it should be. Obviously, marriage has ups and downs, but for him, he was just like, look, my wife is amazing, my children, family is the best thing I ever did. And the quicker you do it, the better, is basically what he was saying. And that really, pricked me and piqued my interest. So I think those type of experiences, it did make me look towards marriage. And I feel like maybe today there's a lot of people that have been scared because of what they've heard, whatever.
Yes, and social media doesn't help at all.
It doesn't.
Get married today, divorce tomorrow. Get married today, violence tomorrow, and stuff.
I saw something the other day that said, even in terms of the way dating is conducted, that people are being trained to get divorced. So you're in a relationship with someone, you hit a brick wall, and the first brick wall, red light, you press eject, you jump out. That's not real life. In real life, you have problems. And the reason, my parents, a lot of the older generation, they were married for so long, is because they understood that life is about partnership, and people have faults, you work with them, all this type of it's a journey
to resolve the conflict, not jump out.
So
nice. So you guys are listening to all this good, at least one thing that makes me really happy is that there's positive stuff flowing from this, because these days what we consume, especially in social media, is very negative. There's this bad energy towards marriage. Oh my God, on my marriage they fear me, because I have someone like in namesake who we celebrated her marriage and everything, and in less than 2 years, 2 years is even long, but for some people it's 6 months or even 2 months and it's done. In less than 2 years, then the next thing I'm seeing pictures of her husband battering her, head injuries, neck, just really messy, right? And she's presenting strong video and audio evidence, recordings of the man doing these things. So it's almost like there's no denying it. Right. So in this time when there's so much negativity, right, against marriage, it's so good to hear about your experience and that of your friend. And maybe there are some others out there as well. So I wish people would share more of these positive stories, because I don't know why, for some really strange reason, we are drawn towards the negative. Would have parents who have been married for maybe 20, 30 years, but would rather look to celebrities with bad marriages and would be like, look at these people, this marriage thing is not. Well, you have your parents, I'm not talking about those who've had to endure abuse to make the marriage work. I'm talking about real partnership. You understand? So it's really a good thing that we have people like you and your friends who speak good things about.
And I'll mention this one as well. Like, I had this one friend recently, and we were just saying in a casual conversation, and he said he's been married for, I think he's married for almost 18 years. And he said, I've never cheated on my wife.
He's never cheated on his wife.
Never cheated on my wife.
Please say it again, louder this time.
He said, I have never cheated on my wife.
Pause.
And when I heard
pause. I'm in that number, or I used to be in that number. I just feel that, or I always ask myself, is it possible in this time and age to find a person? Let me not even say man now. Okay, no, let me say man, because we're talking about is it possible to find a man who will not cheat? This your friend has children.
Yeah.
Okay, now see, I mean, this is an aside. It's not part of the, the main reason for this episode, but since it came up, let's talk about it. When a woman gets pregnant and then she has kids, the doctor will say, stay away from her for some, 4-6 weeks, let's, healing take place. I've heard many men say that period, they struggle. And that is when, for the ones who cheat, that's usually the genesis for them. And then for some others, it will be some other reason. I've heard a man say that, when you live with a woman for so long, she starts to feel like a sister. And then it's in your head where you can't really have sex with your sister. It's too routine, and it's just, you've seen all of her. So you want the excitement outside. And then some other guys say they want to still know if they're in the game, in the market, if they still have that appeal and ability to toast shishina. You understand? So there are thousands of reasons why men cheat. So to hear, that's why I said pause. Let me soak that in. In 18 years of marriage, he's never cheated.
Yeah. And
did he tell you how that happened, or was it easy for him? Or?
No, he said it wasn't. It's not easy, but it's one day at a time. And if he would think that if he was in a situation where he was sick or whatever, that his wife wouldn't do that to him. So that when she's, like you said, she's just delivered, she's not available. Then you do the same thing. You will not die. So it's the golden rule. Exactly.
Do unto
others how you want them to do unto you. And it's the thing of as well, during your time as a single person, yes, some of us, we failed at some point, whatever. But at that time, when I was holding on, keeping the faith, there's lessons you learn that if you can what's that word to use? Abstain. If you abstain, you realize that, okay, I felt like I was going to die yesterday, but I prayed, I went to busy myself or play sports, I didn't die. Or I went to the gym to put that energy into something else, I didn't die. So you realize that actually you've had experiences where you felt that urge and it felt like you were going to die, but you didn't die.
You didn't.
So but if you have that mentality where, oh boy, I'm going to die,
it must happen now.
It has to happen. Then obviously you get married, your wife is not available, and you feel like you're going to die, so you go and jump out.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I mean.
Yes.
So yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for this super interesting conversation. How would you advise unmarried people that are listening to you now who probably also struggling with this guilt after sex, and how would you advise unmarried people listening to you?
My advice is you will not die.
You will not die if
you
what?
will not die if you don't have sex.
If you don't have sex, you won't die.
There's even this thing. It's not even a religious thing per se. That for men, I'm talking about SR, semen retention. They're saying do other things with your life. Go to the gym. Work on your dreams. Don't be just so focused on who am I going to sleep with, who am I going to bang, who am I going to nag. Have plans for your life and do things. And they're saying apparently men in their 40s, they seem to be more because they're more. I'm trying to remember, but basically men that are in their 20s and so they're running up and down chasing girls. The men in their 40s, they're more focused. They're doing things with their lives and saving money and So my advice is just do things with your life. Focus on your dreams, focus on your goals. You will not die.
Okay. I mean, I was going to bring up this blue ball myth, but I think I will dedicate a separate episode to discussing the blue ball myth, where guys say they have blue balls if they're aroused and they don't let out. But we're not going to have that in this particular. So this is inspiration now for another episode.
Yeah.
Any advice or shout out or whatever to the married ones who enjoy guiltless fornication?
Yeah.
I think even when you're married, if you cheat, then there's going to be guilt. I feel.
Guilt. Yeah.
Let's leave this that one. Any advice to those ones who are like you, enjoying the thing?
Yeah, for those
as in rolling out from bed with madam and just doing devotion.
For those that are married, continue to create an environment that allows for intimacy. Love each other, help each other. Men, if you need to help your wife clean, cook, make life easier for her, do those things because it will allow her to, to want to be nice to you and you be nice to her, and don't if you beat your wife, you're not a man.
Yeah,
you're not a man. So
right.
All those type of things. Just create a loving environment, and you enjoy as much guilt-free nagging as is possible.
Nice. Okay, so is there any thing you would like to add in closing remarks? Something you probably wanted to say that I did not ask, or anything at all?
Yeah, well, there is one thing. Also, in regards to it's not necessary to do with this, but sex is a contract. Years ago when before I crossed the line, I remember I was speaking to a friend of mine, and he was dating this girl, and they used to make fun of me that, get a girlfriend, why don't you have a girlfriend? But whenever they had relationship problems, they would always come to me. So he said he was seeing this girl and he wanted to break it up, but he was struggling because the last time he tried to break up with her, he drove to her house, told her that, I'm leaving you, opened the door. The girl walked out the car, and then as he's driving away, he looked in his rear view mirror and he saw her walking back into the road. She was going to kill herself. And then he now had to turn the car around to now stop her and now say, don't do, I was joking. Not I was joking.
But that's crazy though.
Yeah, it's a bit extreme, but so when he said this, I asked him, I said, have you slept with her? Did you have sex with her? He said yes. I said, well, that's why, isn't it? Because you've signed the document, whether you know it or not. When you sleep with someone, you're saying, I'm not going anywhere. I will be with you forever. That's what that is.
Even for one night stands?
There's a whole thing because, people will argue and say, for men it's nothing. Women have more feelings. There's some women that dead their feelings so that they can do all those things. But if you're operating on the normal...
On a stable frequency.
It is not normal.
Okay.
Yeah. And those people, they have to numb themselves in other ways, but if you operate on the stable frequency, it's not normal. Yeah, so which is why we call it consummation. It's not just going to having a ceremony.
You have to consummate. So sex is that consummation.
It's that consummation. That's final signature to say I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. That's what it is. So
interesting.
Be careful who you're signing with.
Yeah.
Be careful who you're signing with. That's all I would say.
Wow. Thank you so much. It's been a long time since hard truths like this have been dropped. So I really you drove, is it 2 hours?
2 hours.
Or 3? It felt like 3 hours.
It felt like 3 hours. Yeah.
Guys, Obinna drove all the way for this episode, and I am super, 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 super grateful that you could make out the time to be here. I would like to hear your comments. I would like to hear, I love feedback, guys. So you can leave me a comment on Podroom. Podroom is a podcast app that allows you to comment on each episode. It's like the social media platform, but for podcasts, right? So you can comment, I could reply, someone else could see your comment and reply, I could like your comments, love it, all these emoji reactions and everything. So drop me a comment on Podroom, or you could go to my Instagram page at younginlove_podcast and leave a comment in the post with respect to this particular episode. I want to see your feedback, and if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share. I love when you share my episodes. Share with your family, share with your friends, share with your enemies, share with everybody. And please stay tuned. Do not go anywhere. If you haven't subscribed, also please subscribe to the Young in Love podcast. And until when next we meet, bye. And be good. Ovi, say your own bye.
Bye everyone. Take care. Shout out to Mazi Feko. One day we'll meet.
Who's Mazi Feko?
Your friend.
How did you know him?
I know him now. I follow him.
Are you serious? Did you know him just like that, or you knew him through me?
Through you and through social. Yeah.
You enjoy what he does?
Yeah. Listen to his
Feko, you owe me one.
Surviving Echo.
Yes,
Feko.
surviving Echo with Feko.
Yeah.
I know, Feko, you owe me for this one. I'm not letting it go. Alright, guys, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Young in Love. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, if you did, you can rate us and write a review on Apple and Google Podcasts. Feel free to like our social media pages on Facebook and Instagram at YoungInLove_podcast. Share this podcast with your family and friends. Subscribe to Young in Love Podcast on Apple and Google Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support Young in Love Podcast, you can do this on our Patreon account by visiting patreon.com/YoungInLove and making a small monthly donation of as little as $1 every month, or even bigger donations as you feel led to. But hey, if you cannot make any donations, that's fine too, because besides just money, Young in Love Podcast has thrived and will continue to thrive on the prayers and good wishes of good people like you. Until the next episode, bye and be good.
Young in Love.